Hi, in this video I'll be introducing you to the coordinate plane. So the coordinate plane is just a space that's formed by a horizontal line, which we call the x-axis. It's actually exactly the same as the number line that we've been dealing with. And there's also a vertical number line, and that's called the y-axis. So let's draw that so you can see what that looks like. So we have a horizontal number line, and again that's called the x-axis. And we have a vertical number line, and that is called the y-axis. And whenever you're drawing a coordinate plane, you'd want to label the x-axis and the y-axis so that whoever's looking at your work is absolutely clear on what you are doing. All right, and so it's a number line. So right here in the middle, we have the 0. And then we can count 1, 2, and as you can see, the numbers are increasing as we move towards the right, as any number line would. 5, 6, 7, and that's all we have space for here. But you see the arrow, that means it keeps going. You just don't have to draw all. -1, and as you go to the left, it decreases. -1, -2, -3, so on and so forth. All right. So we've seen this x-axis, the number line, a billion times. Maybe not a billion, but we've seen it many times. The vertical axis might be a little more unfamiliar to you, but it works in the same way. The numbers increase going up. 1, 2, 3. And notice I'm putting these little markers to show exactly where those points are. And then going down, the numbers are decreasing. -2. -3, -4, -5. And again, you see the arrow on top to let you know that it keeps going, but we're just not drawing the whole thing. All right, so we can say that these two axes, the x-axis and the y-axis, as you notice, it's dividing everything up into 4 quarters. So we have, this is 1/4, otherwise known as a quadrant. This is the second one, and we're going in that direction. So quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those are names for the areas, just in case somebody wants to know where something is. You can say, oh, it's over here in quadrant 4. So let's label those quadrants. So the first one is in the top right. It's called quadrant 1. And notice I'm using a capital Roman numeral to label it. Then we go counterclockwise to quadrant 2. And then we continue quadrant 3. And finally, quadrant 4. Oops, there we go. All right, so let's say you had a point right here, and somebody asked you, where is that point? I don't know where the point is. Can you describe it to me? You'd say, hey, I know where it is. It's quadrant 2. All right, but then let's say somebody said to you, well, okay, it's in quadrant 2, but is it over here? Is it over here? Is it over here? Is it over here? Who knows? So you have to get a little bit more specific when you are describing where a point is. So that's where the x-axis and the y-axis come in. So in order to describe where a point is, you use something called the coordinate pair. So, or the coordinates, both are acceptable. So if you're telling someone where points are, you'd give something called the x-coordinate. Notice my parenthesis. Then you'd make a comma, you'd write a comma, and then you'd give the y-coordinate. But what are these coordinates? All right, well, let's see. Let's look back at a point here in red. So you want to see where it lines up with the x-axis. So as you can see, it lines up with -4 on the x-axis. So you would give that as your x-coordinate. Your x-coordinate would be -4. And then you want to check, where does this point line up on the y-axis? So you'd look across and notice, okay, on the y-axis it lines up with 2, and that's your coordinate pair. or your coordinates of that point. So you can be given a point and you can look at that point and tell what the coordinates are, or vice versa. You could be given a point, the coordinates, and you can be asked to plot that point. So let's practice plotting a point if you're given the coordinates. Okay, so before we plot this point and complete this example, just want to point out a few things that I didn't point out before. One thing that I want to point out is, notice I have the x-axis, the y-axis written here, and the x-axis written here. Common courtesy to anyone reading your work, you want to at least put an x here and a y here so they know which one is your x and which one is your y. Another thing is this point right here is 0 on both the x-axis and the y-axis, and that point is called the origin. That is very important to know. Our origin is 0 on x and 0 on the y. All right, let's do the example and then we'll be done. All right, so it looks like our x coordinate, because x is always written first, our x coordinate is -3. So that's right here, but that's not the point, that's just the x coordinate. And our y coordinate is 4. So on the y-axis, that's the y, or y coordinate is 4. Again, that's not the point, that's just where the point is located on the y-axis. So to plot the points, you have to see where these two things meet. So you can just kind of visualize going up from -3 on the x and going across from 4 on the y. And they meet here at this point. Therefore, that point is -3, 4. Right here. All right, so you can plot a point exactly based on knowing the coordinates. All right, hope that helped. Bye.